All right, everybody, I got something for you that is so amazing. You won't believe it. Did you know that 99% of people cannot lick their elbow? Yeah. And did you also know that about 90% of people will probably try to do it anyway? You know, that's a fun way to look at things, but there's so many amazing things out there. So many things that you just can't believe, from the way things are built, the way things are made, there's so many different fascinating things out there. And what we want to talk about are some amazing things. And we serve an amazing God who has done so many amazing things all the way back in the Old Testament through the New Testament, and has done amazing things today and will continue to do amazing things. So what's something that's amazing to you? Okay, so I have a question for you. How many of you have someone that you take care of? How many of you have a fish, or maybe some turtles, or a dog, or a cat, or a lizard, or a snake, or something like that? You have to feed it. You have to take care of it, because if you don't feed it and you don't take care of it, it's not going to be around. It's not going to survive. It depends on you to be taken care of. Well, do you know that in the same way, we need to depend on God? Now, I know that we find it quite easy to be like, oh, wait, I'm hungry. I'll be right back. Hold on. Oh, I'm sorry. I was saying that, you know, we find it pretty easy that when we're hungry, we'll go and get some stuff. You know, all right, eat stuff. I would go and get while I'm hungry. And that's all I have to depend on. I just go and I eat chips. How are you when you're hungry? You just go and get something. Like you go to that refrigerator and there's milk in there, or there's juice, or water, or maybe there's chips. But you just know that they're going to be there. You just depend on those being there. Well, that's nice and all, but what we need to realize is that we can't depend on the refrigerator being full, and we can't depend on chips and everything else. Now, hear me out on that, is that when we're talking about what we depend on, it's depending upon God. It's depending upon God to provide for us. I know that for those of you that are able to go to the fridge and grab stuff and do different things like that, is that God has provided for your parents or your grandparents or whomever you're living with. They've provided for them so that they in turn can go purchase food and purchase chips and drinks and different things like that. But the thing is that how can we know that we are provided for? How can we put our trust in God and know that He is going to provide for us? Now, I like chips, but how many of you know that we probably can't just eat chips all the time? That's probably not something that we really need, but yet it's really nice to have some, right? But how has God provided for you? What is something that God has really met a need for you? I know for me that God has provided for me when He's provided for when I was younger. It was just my mom and I, and what we were going to do and where we were going to live and how do we get by. When it was just my wife and I, when we just got married and we went through a time and I didn't know how we were going to make it, how we were going to pay the bills. We got assistance for food and different things. But yet, you know what? God was one who provided. And it took faith for us to depend on Him, because I know there were times when we didn't know how it was going to be provided or where it was going to come from. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. Because I want to talk to you a story in the Bible about a time where some people had to have faith. And had to have faith on how they were going to be provided with something to eat. Okay, so how many of you like breakfast? And maybe you like cereal, whether you like Rice Krispies, Frosted Flakes, Crunch Berries, Apple Jacks, Lucky Charms, and of course you got Pop-Tarts. Like, how many of you like Pop-Tarts? And do you eat them? Oh no, you never want to drop a Pop-Tart. What if that was the last one? You have no more. You're all done. What are you gonna do? Well, as much as we can worry and say, oh no, we're gonna run out of Pop-Tarts or cereal, what are we gonna do? Well, there's actually a situation where people were gonna run out of any kind of food. And remember, there's no Quick Trip, there's no Hy-Vee, there's nothing. What do you do? Well, that's what happened in the Old Testament in the book of 1 Kings. 1 Kings chapter 17. And a man by the name of Elijah, who was a prophet. And a prophet is someone who was sent by God. They're downloaded a message from God. And Elijah was there to tell the people that, hey, you're worshiping idols. You're not doing the right thing. And because of that, there was a drought. And a drought meant no rain. You couldn't grow any crops. You couldn't do anything. And it's actually even referred to in the New Testament to where it talks about how it went for over 3 years. And can you imagine, oh no, we lost our Pop-Tart, but imagine not having any food? And that's what happened. See, Elijah was sent by God to an area, and there he met a widow. And a widow is someone who was married, but their husband passed away. And this widow had a child, and they were preparing for their very last meal. They didn't have a whole selection of things or anything else. They were ready. They lost all hope that it was all over, and they were gonna have that last meal. So Elijah goes and says, hey, can you please get me something to drink? Now remember, there was a drought and everything else, but she was like, I don't have that much. And so while she was on her way to get a drink, have you ever done that? Where someone's gonna go get you something, you're like, hey, yeah, I'm sorry, can you grab me something else, or can you grab me that? Well, and he said, hey, would you mind giving me just a little bit of bread or something that you have? Well, at that point, she's like, hey, we're getting ready. We've lost all hope that, man, this is our last meal. Elijah then says something to her, and he says, if you would make this and that you would do this for me, that you would never run out. Can you imagine where you know that you don't have any food, it's been a drought, it's been a terrible time, you've lost all hope, and then your very last part that you have, your very last part that you're gonna make your last thing, you give it away. And now what are you gonna do? But yet, what happened is that she didn't run out of oil. She didn't run out of flour in the meal. And it's like, all of a sudden, you think you're out of Pop-Tarts, but then, I got one, I got one, more, and more, and more, and more, and they don't run out. Can you imagine that happening? And can you imagine how she must have thought that when she thought it was all done, she lost all hope, that actually she was still continuing to be provided for? Now, we might be talking about Pop-Tarts, but yet this is a really serious situation where someone's life was on the line. How has God provided for you? How have you seen God help your life, help your family's life, help your friend's life? How have you seen God provide for you? As well as, we'll talk about a little bit more, how can you have faith to know that God will provide for you? Now, I think that's pretty amazing that God can have a bottle of oil and meal and flour and have it not run out. Now, I want to tell you a little bit more detail about this. Is that Elijah, as we talked about, was a prophet. He was a man who God sent and downloaded a message. And he was sent to a place that actually was a place he probably wasn't going to be too welcomed. And the people there, they probably didn't get along. But yet, God was able to use a situation and a place of probably two different people who probably didn't see the same way and didn't believe the same way. But yet, he was able to do something amazing. And that's something I want you to remember, is that God can use unique people, unique situations for his purpose. Here, this is something that's happened so many years ago, and it's going to be talked about now and forever, about how God used this woman who lost all hope, a woman who thought that it was all over, but yet because she obeyed what was told from God, and that Elijah had the faith to ask that and do that, is that they were provided for. And that God can use unique people for his purpose. The other thing I want you to remember is that God can use all kinds of people. Here you have a prophet, someone who was sent by God. Here you have someone who was probably looked upon very lowly because she was a widow. They were lost all hope. They thought everything was over. They were in an area that really where all the people were worshiping idols and probably saw things differently. But yet we live in a time where maybe people look at different people different ways, and no, if you're not like me and I'm not like you. God shows his love and mercy to all people. All people. Yeah, you, me, short, tall, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, you live in this neighborhood, you live in that neighborhood, you live over there, you live over there. No, no, no. All people. God shows his love and mercy to all people. And the third thing I want you to remember is that faith is required. Faith is something that we, you and me, cousin Ray Ray, hey, your mom, dad, grandma, everybody, is required. But when it comes to having faith and trusting God, how can we do that? And how can we grow in that faith, especially knowing who God is and how he can provide for us and how he cares for us? Now, I don't know about you, but if I had my last little piece of bread and we were running out and I had to give that to someone, that would be tough to do. And I lost all hope and I thought that everything was over with. But yet we could see how God can provide and how we talked about earlier about how he can use unique things in our life. But when it comes to faith, how do we get it? Is it something that we put on? Like I put on my new faith, I got my new faith shirt on. Yep, I put this on. I feel so faithful and strong. Well, that's not how it works. See, faith is actually a gift of God. Faith is actually a fruit of the Spirit. It's in Ephesians how it talks about how faith is that gift from God. But how can we get that? It's not something that we earn. It's not something that we just have to get or anything like that. How do we get it? See, faith is not obtained by just us. And see, it's because of God, because he is so merciful and full of grace and loving, and that his plan and purpose for us is that we can have faith. Now, we had a memory verse that faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about the things that we do not see. And Ephesians talks about how for by grace you have been saved through faith and not of your own doing, not of your own works. It is a gift of God. So how can we grow in that? Well, we can grow in our faith through many different things. One, we can remember how God has provided for us, how God has provided for others in our family. We can grow in our faith by learning how God has done that through others, through his word. We can grow in our faith through worship. We can grow in our faith through prayer. There's many ways that we can grow in our faith. But faith is something that we need to choose to do. I know that I myself have had times where my faith, if it was like a level, I'm like, yep, and then all of a sudden, or yeah, it's high. And I think those times when I'm really low, or that is because my faith is dependent upon what I think I can do, or what I think, oh, I can get me through this situation, or they're going to get me through that situation. And when we can stop and think and realize that we can depend on God, and we can depend on God. Now remember, faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about the things that we do not see. Now, just like we learned about Elijah and the widow, is that she didn't see that being full. It wasn't full. It wasn't until she said, okay, and she gave it up and poured out the last part that it then became full again. And that's the same thing with us. So whether we need to have faith in what we're doing in school, we need to have faith in what's going on with our parents and things within our family. We need to have faith about maybe things that we're struggling with or wondering about or questions in that, is that when we have faith and when we don't think that I have the answers and I can do it, but when we can stop and stand firm and know that, you know what, I'm going to have confidence in what I hope for and assurance about the things I don't see. And just like that widow who gave that up, is that I guarantee you is that when we can give that up, when we can say, here you go, that's where faith comes in. In the Bible it says, cast your cares on Jesus for he cares for you. Now, I have lots of things and from things that you might be thinking about or worrying about, but have you ever gone fishing? Have you ever cast something? Now, I love to go fishing. And when I go fishing, I want to cast it. Now, a lot of times when I cast it, you don't just go, boop. Oh, it's right there. No, when you cast it, you, it's like way over there. So remember, when you cast your cares, your anxiety, one, it's something that we can do, and God asked us to do it. But we want to make sure that we cast it far away. We want to cast our cares and anxiety away, but we want to keep our faith near us. So how are you going to keep your faith near you? How are you going to cast your cares, your anxiety away? So I want you to think about, what are ways that you can cast your anxiety and cares from you? And what are ways that you can keep your faith close by? Hey, thanks for being with us today. And I challenge you to remember about how to keep your faith nearby, and about how faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about the things we don't see, and how we can learn from the Old Testament about how they didn't see what was going to be provided, but it took faith. It took faith trusting in God. And as we'll learn even further, is that Elijah went on to do even greater things, but he took that first step of faith. He took that first step in faith, and I encourage you that maybe you need to take that first step in faith. Maybe you need to take that first step in faith and say, hey, you know what? I want to know more about Jesus. I want to know more about having faith in him. And by the way, it's okay if you don't, I understand everything and this is how it works and everything and that. No. It's okay to have questions and wonder about that, because we want to help you. Whether you're watching this at home or you're there in service, you're in Kansas, Kansas, in Ottawa, here in Olathe, everywhere. Hey, we want to help you. So reach out to us, reach out to a leader, reach out to one of your parents and that, and we want to help you with that. Because see, faith is a gift of God. It's something that we want to work on. I know that I'm working on that, and I want to help you. If you have questions about that, I encourage you, reach out, please let us know, talk to a leader, and we want to help you as you grow in your faith. We love you guys, and we'll see you soon.